Hey guys, so I know we have a little bit of a mic thing, so when I'm talking, and if I start fading out and I start talking like this, someone say, hey man, just go like this. So, and I'll put it back to my mouth. Thank you guys for coming. Like Jeremy said, my name's Austin Dunbar. I'm the founder of Durham Branding Company and owner of Durham Department. And today, we're going to talk about risk and what risk looks like. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you guys will know how to spell risk, and you'll realize why faith is spelled R-I-S-K. So, you guys came to my city. Welcome to the crown jewel of Kentucky. Her name's Covington. I appreciate you guys being here across the river. I don't know where you guys came from, but you guys coming here means a lot to me. I feel like I have home field advantage, and you guys are an away team. And usually home field teams win. So thanks you guys, wherever you came from. Thank you for coming here and spending this morning with me. So before we start real quick, there's just a few thank yous I want to get out. These aren't necessarily in order, but I wanted to thank you for my parents for raising me well and teaching me to work hard for what I want. My friends who are considered family. I hugged a bunch of necks the past hour. So thank you guys for being here. Love you guys a lot. Jeremy, the CreativeMornings team, putting this together. This thing just happened overnight. It's been, what, 6 months we've been talking, something like that? So thank you for that. My boys at Braxton Brewing Company, thank you so much. Isn't this place awesome? Isn't this place cool? It's only the second time, yeah. It's the second time I've been here, so it's, yeah. I was just shocked. The first time I was shocked, and now it's still looking good, but thank you guys. And thank you guys for being a big partner of the progress of Covington. We wouldn't be here without you. And then all you pretty people, who are you guys? I don't know a lot of faces, and I thought it was gonna be 20 of my friends who were gonna show up here for the free coffee and free Lil's Bagels, just because that's usually who I hang out with. But thank you guys for coming here. And my wife, she rules. I got a bunch of kids. Obviously, all I have is daughters, and I get emotional. I can't have boys because I'm too sensitive. But thank you for supporting me, trusting me. Love you a lot. And I'm gonna lose it here, but it's all good because we'll come back around. And to this guy right here. So he can't be here today. He's actually in New York City. He lives 2 doors away from the studio. The studio's a block that way. He couldn't be here today. He's in New York City because he's battling stage 4 esophageal cancer. And his name is Colton. And his fingerprints are in this whole deck. So I just wanted to kind of dedicate this talk to him. I don't know if people dedicate talks like they do books, you know, but I had to do it because the whole time I was writing this thing, I couldn't. He's all over this damn thing. So I love you, man, miss you, and I'll see you in a bit. And the reason why I said that is because we're in this together. Design's cool. I'm gonna group us in the category of creatives. What we do, it rules. We're really fortunate to do what we do. This morning, we're in this together. There's things that are more important than sick logos, catchy taglines. So I just wanted to acknowledge that, and I wanted to say thank you guys for being here. I got the keys to the car for a little bit, but I'm gonna pass them back to you guys, and let's go for a ride. So, a little up front, table of contents. That's the bourbon table at the studio. You can help yourself. This is kind of just where we're going. So a little bit of brief history of who I am. We're gonna rock and roll, how risk became the theme, how it should hit the fan, and what I'm trying to do next. So, again, I was born and raised in a military family, and that was in the upfront for, I think, the paragraph where I was looking for Jeremy. So my father was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. I was born in Great Falls, Montana. You know it because of the G and F on the side of the hill. That's my brother. His name's Logan. We were there until I was about 4, and we left there and moved to Rome, New York. And in Rome, I was in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, left New York was fine, and then moved to northern Japan. So this is Misawa, Japan. So actually this is the Air Force Base covered in snow. And that's usually what it looked like. Pretty doom and gloomy. Spent 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade there, and then moved to Harrodsburg, Kentucky. My dad had to go remote. My mom's from Harrodsburg, it's 2 hours south. We lived in a jail, so this was our house. So this was a jail, so there's the bars on the windows and stuff. Up there, like right here, that was the 2nd floor bathroom. It had a clawfoot, and then one wall was still brick with shackles on the wall. Yeah, crazy. And so you can't touch it because it's historical. And then they built the new jail, which looks like an older version of the jail, in the back. So that was our house. We lived there. If you didn't believe in ghosts, you'd believe it if you were there. And yeah. So I was only there for a year. So we were there 5th grade. Left 5th grade, moved to Bruck-Mühlbach, Miesau, Germany. We were stationed in Ramstein. This was year 2000. So I was 6th, 7th grade then, and then my family went on vacation. So that's me, cool. That's Logan, pretty cool. And that's my sister. I didn't have a picture of Maggie. And that's Maggie. And these are my cousins, Trenton and Brittany. And I didn't ask them if I can use their image. And Trenton's in law school, so I just want to be kosher with that. So I covered it in Durham gold. And so we left vacation at Grandma's house, moved to Tokyo. If you ever want to go to outer space, go to Tokyo. And then from there, so this is what was I in Tokyo? 7th and 8th grade. And then I spent 9th and 10th grade in Okinawa. So Okinawa, Japan is home of karate. It's kind of Hawaii on acid is my analogy. It's where the rest of the world goes to travel. We go to Florida, you know, everyone else goes to Okinawa. And so I spent 9th and 10th grade there. And then my dad was like, hey, listen, I want to retire, and I'm going to go to Saudi Arabia. So newsflash, y'all are moving back to Harrodsburg. So Dad went to Saudi, we went to Harrodsburg. So by this time I was older, junior and senior year of high school. And when I came to high school, I basically had all my credits to graduate early. And so, but I couldn't graduate early because the school needed you to stay because they got paid from the state. So my junior and senior year were a joke. I basically just took fun classes, but I started taking like website design, and I was playing in a band at the time. We were really famous, called Rescue the Fallen. You guys probably heard of us. And then I was designing t-shirts and CDs, and so I started getting into that stuff, and I left Harrodsburg and to go to college. And so my one rule to my parents, I said, I want to get as farthest away from Harrodsburg as I can possibly go. And they said, well, you got to stay in state. So the farthest away was NKU, and it kind of worked out because they had a design program. And so I went straight into the design program, excuse me. So I was there, this is 2005, designing, doing school stuff. Fast forward to 2010, I was in the BFA program, did a BFA show. During that time, I was working freelance at a big global agency downtown from like 9 to 5. And then I was also freelancing for a small agency in Newport from like 6 to 3:30 in the morning, and while I was doing my BFA. And that's kind of how I didn't graduate college, because then I was just too busy. And I was like, I don't want to take geology with a lab. So I kind of walked out. This isn't a business talk. This isn't a success talk. This is a risk talk. So it's Friday morning. I had a blast making this. If I wasn't here, I'd be working. I get to the studio at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I just wanted to kind of invite you guys to walk in. I tell you, don't knock, the door's unlocked. Come in, sit down, and welcome to Durham Brand Company. Well, thank you. I didn't need a clap. So that's some work. But that's not, like I said, that's not really what we're here for. We're here to talk about risk and how risk kind of has been woven in and out of my life and how I kind of unconsciously has taken risk, how it's just always kind of around me. So we're going to talk about the highs and lows, the goods, the bad, all that stuff. Do you guys know what this song, these lyrics are from? Okay. And basically what I want to do in telling the story is just kind of give you guys a foundation of where I came from, so you guys can kind of have a better idea of what is being risk. Because to me, risk is a relative term. It's like words like expensive, cheap, good, bad. It's all based off of that person and that experience. $10,000 to AJ might not be a lot of money, but it could be the same, or it could be a lot of money. It could be the same to Matt back there. Like $10 to him might be just an exorbitant amount of money at the time. So it's all with the person's where they're coming from. So what's risk? What do you do when you guys have a problem? You go to the internet to solve it. So that's how I started this whole thing. I went to the internet and I said, hey Google, what's risk? And they told me. So this is what risk is. So risk is when we stop taking risks and we stop living life. Playing safe is very risky. Art is risk. How heavy is that? And how sick is that creative market type? In life, you don't risk anything, you risk everything. So this is all nonsense, okay? I don't even know. It's funny. But risk, so this is from the businessdictionary.com. This is what the Business Dictionary says. Probability or threat of damage, injury, liability, loss, or any other negative occurrence that is caused by external or internal vulnerabilities that may be avoided through preemptive action. So all these highlighted words were highlighted from the website that hyperlinks you just to kind of bear you down in words like liability and loss. So you read this and it's really doom and gloom and negative. So why the hell would you take any kind of risk? Because the idea of risk sounds risky. And how did this even talk about risk came out? So back in August, Jeremy reached out to me and he said, hey Austin, good having coffee with you, all this other stuff. Want to shoot some themes your way and see what you could talk about. So what he said was risk, reality, broken transparency. I sent him an email back and said, thank you so much, Jeremy. I said, can it be titled, The Risk of Being a Real Broken Transparent Man? A chat with Austin Dunbar of Durham Branding Company. His email back, he didn't get the joke. He said, you could title it whatever you want, but I need you to, what do you want to talk about? So, of course, I laughed. But then I came back with a little bit of substance to his question. So I said, hey, Jeremy, here below are some top line notes. I'm going to read through these. Some of them I'm talking about, some of them we're not going to talk about. But this is, I kind of wanted to give you a foundation of where we're coming from. So, quit the full-time employment at a design agency to start freelancing. My wife was pregnant with our third kid. We had no insurance and we were moving into a new home. The day before I quit my job, I was involved in a car accident where I was at fault and in an insurance financial battle. To give some context to that, there was a guy in a hole and I didn't see him and I hit him in my car. And he's okay, but that was the day before I left the cushy 401k pay matches and I was like, oh gosh. Started freelancing for companies all across the nation, became a little bit more serious where I wanted to take my career. I wanted to be transitioned from a freelancer to an actual business and getting paid business rates and freelance rates. Started, the studio was involved in a lawsuit that almost shut the whole thing down. Started making goods specifically branded for the video, or for the studio, because the idea was work doesn't stop, or don't stop working when the work stops, excuse me. And then in transitional base to start hiring full-time people and not hired guns. So from all of that, I realized that the payoff of risk is reward, but the partner of risk is fear. And fear is the big thing in that whole thing, where fear just debilitates people. And you kind of make reason and step in and out of reason of why you don't want to do things, right? If fear is involved, because you don't think clearly. And you need to have a little bit of faith in yourself to kind of take that step and be cool with the unknown, and be cool knowing that fear is the shadow that's always following behind you, but to walk past that, because fear destroys and faith restores. This, just faith in yourself, faith in the process, faith in the unknown. Walk past all that stuff, because what people see, what they see me or the studio or anything, see someone with a sweet car or a cool looking babe or whatever, you're like, I want that cool babe or that cool car. So what they see is this oak tree, right? But what they don't know is that person and me and we all have the same thing. And the only thing that we have in our hands is this acorn. And I would rather have a handful of 20 acorns than one big ass oak tree, and be perceived that way. Because with your hand and having an acorn in it, you got to plant it, you got to sow it, you got to water it, and there's work involved in all of that to turn from that tiny little seed to this big ass thing that can brave whatever storm comes around. Okay, so is that a good analogy for you guys? Because winds are going to come, chaos is going to come, and it's just inevitable. It's just how business, how life works. And your happiness odometer is going to be all over the damn place. So you're going to have a few highs and a ton of lows. So you're never in the middle. You're either in the dumps or you're feeling decent. So that's just how it works. I'll do something really, really cool for a client. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna love it. I'm at that 6, 7. They present it, and they're like, you spelled our business name wrong. Oh, yeah, sorry. It's just how it works. So you got to be cool with that, and you got to be cool with kind of go with the wind and whatever the wind brings, and be flexible in that. Because if you're not, then there's no sense in taking a risk, because you'll get shattered the first time that rainstorm comes around. And then worry. Worry is a big thing with fear, because then you're just like, oh, but if, and I can't this, that. You start moving all weird and talking all weird. And we can't worry about tomorrow, because right now we got to focus on doing what's good today. That's kind of how I live my life and with the business. I'm way concerned with doing kick-ass work for cool clients I have today. And tomorrow is going to have its own set of problems, own set of deliverables. It's going to be another business name I misspell, and I know it's coming, but I got to be comfortable with that and focus in and dial in on the now to output for a little bit better for the future. So risk, how to become a theme of my life. So I kind of walked you guys through up till 2011 when I was freelancing. At the time, she wasn't my wife. I don't even know if this girlfriend, I don't even know what you call us then, but she moved to Chicago. I was like, no, what do I do? So you chase that girl to Chicago, and ended up going to Chicago, working in Chicago, and she became pregnant, and she moved back home. And I was working at an agency up there. It was about 30 people. I was working at what I wanted to work on, which was beer. I always wanted to do beer and beer packaging. And I was like, no, Ashley, we can't move back home. We're not Covington people, or whatever. I don't even know what it was. But I'm doing what I love. I'm doing what I want to work on. Like work, what I was saying was work is more important than this family stuff. And she was cool with it. She moved back, she was pregnant, she moved back with Raya, our oldest, and what I ended up being was kind of like your full-time traveling design guy. And what I mean by that was on Monday morning, I would leave Cincinnati Monday morning at 1:30 in the morning, and I don't know if you guys have been on this elite transportation service called Megabus. Things always on time, never breaks down. That's their motto. But I was traveling back and forth to work, and I did that for 10 months straight. And so I'd leave Cincinnati at 1:30 in the morning, and I'd get to downtown Chicago at 6:30 in the morning. I'd sit at a coffee shop for an hour to wait for the train to come at 7:30 in the morning, to ride a train an hour north to make my Monday morning status by 9 o'clock in the morning. And I would sleep on my buddies' floors, couches, that kind of stuff, all through the week. This like full-time FaceTime dad getting pictures and all this stuff. I was like, this is nonsense. And then I would leave Chicago at 10:30 at night, get to Cincinnati at 5:30 in the morning. Sophia at the time was born, our second child. She would wake up at like 6:30 and then just be stoked that dad was there and everything else. And so I did that for 10 months. So in doing this talk and looking at my mile write-off from that tax year, I did a little math. So from here to Cincinnati, or from here to Chicago, excuse me, is 294 miles. So you times that by 2, that's 5 something. It was 26 something miles on the train. You times that by 2, times 10 months, which is 40 weeks. That's 25,600 miles. And I was like, well, no shit. So I had a problem, and I had to solve it. So I went to the internet, and I said, Internet, how big's the Earth? And the Earth is 24,902 miles around in circumference. So I literally went around Earth in those 10 months to travel for work. So if you don't get anything out of this talk, you guys know how big the Earth is now. And that's a problem, right? That's not sustainable. That's especially having a family and everything else. Like, I was burnt out. I looked like garbage. I just wasn't the best person to be around, but I was hungry for work and I loved what I was doing. And I wanted to continue doing that. And there was nowhere back home here that I wanted to work. I had all these places like, well, I'm not working there. I'm not doing that. And ended up going to another big global agency downtown, and they kind of got me home. And it just so happened I was doing beer again for a different big ass beer brand. And so I was doing exactly what I wanted to do back home, and I didn't have to live that kind of megabus lifestyle. So I did that for a bit. Started freelancing for 2 months. I freelanced for the big global agency for 2 months, and then they say, hey Austin, we want to hire you full time, buddy. I said, no problem. So went on full time, had that HSA card and everything else, and I did that for 7 months. But during that 7 months, I started getting phone calls from some of the people that I met in Chicago and some of these other creatives in New York and Texas, and they'd call me and they'd say, hey Austin, do you freelance? And I said, duh. And I found myself back in the same situation that I was back in college, where I was doing the 9 to 5, but then I'd go home and I'd do like the husband, dad stuff. And then 9, 10 o'clock rolls around, then I was on that 3rd and 4th shift doing freelance work for other people. That 3rd and 4th shift became every night for a handful of months. And so the scale started shifting, and full-time was what it was, freelance, I was doing that, and this was kind of during the time, like I said, that car stuff, so that was a little crazy. And I knew what freelance was. I didn't know what a design studio was. And I knew that freelance, you were getting hired you were a hired gun, basically. And my analogy to this, at one point, I felt like I had 12 girlfriends, and they all wanted to go on a date on the same damn day. And they all knew I was dating other girls, but you can't talk about it. Because when you're a hired gun, the timelines and the budgets aren't yours to make or break. You're a yes man, or a yes ma'am. You're rarely a no sir kind of guy. You just can't afford that. And it was real temporal in that. I kind of felt like I was in purgatory, like you didn't belong up or down. You were just this guy to fill some sort of creative void that this big agency just doesn't have. And I just didn't like that. It just was kind of sticky. So I started talking to Ashley. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a design studio, because that's the next thing you do. But during that time, I was doing a Skillshare class with John Contino. Do you guys know that guy? He's out of New York, love him. And so I was taking this Skillshare class, and in that class, we had to do a hand lettering project. We had to name the project something. And it could be a cigar company, a beer company, whatever. And I always kind of wanted to have a clothing brand for no real reason other than I thought I could do it, and it's a little under, there's not a ton of overhead, and you got to name this thing. And I was like, so what am I going to name this clothing company? And naming a clothing company and naming a business is hard. I can name a kid easier than I can name a business. And that's obvious because I went with the longest damn name you could have for a business. But there was reason for that. So this was some of just the early stuff. And I was traveling, freelancing again, and I was in hotels just writing stuff and trying to make it look pretty. So I had this thing, and it was called Durham Branding Company. And in my dyslexic mind, it made sense. So I knew what I didn't want. So it goes back to that. I didn't want like rocket fuel design, like we propel your ideas, or like spark, and you can just see how that looks and sounds. So I didn't want that nonsense. It just didn't mean anything to me. And I was looking at clothing companies and other companies I just like, and what do they sound like? And it's all name-based, it's all cool names like Levi's and Filson and what else is up there? Helms Workshop. It's a design studio in Texas. Christian Helms, the guy that rules. So it's just stuff with substance and weight, and it means something. So Durham is my middle name. And I didn't want to do Dunbar because there's a studio in the Netherlands called Studio Dunbar, and they rule. And there's also Dunbar armored cars, and I didn't even want to address that. And then my dyslexic mind just put this branding company on the back end of it, because whoever I was talking to at the time, I could be like, oh yeah, it'd be like a branding agency or a clothing brand or a clothing company or a design company. So I could just flip-flop whoever I was talking to because I could never really keep it straight. But having nomenclature like that and having something that long and no one ever says right, Durham Brands, Austin Durham, and I like it kind of. But what it gave me is it gave me some legs for modularity. And so I started just building some of these modular stuff and just different little icons. I wanted to be a brand. I wanted to be a branding studio that branded themselves beyond just their name. And I wanted to have kind of a toolkit that we designed for other brands for myself. So did this DB. I'm also really into like whatever your dad wore when he was playing JV basketball. That's what I like the look of. So, and then you're not real unless you have stamps. So I made some stamps, and and so I basically built all this stuff out. And what I was doing was building a design studio, and I kind of didn't know that. So I was looking for all this design studio, looking for space, and I found this place in Covington. It was actually doing a client work. He was like, hey, you should go to this space. And so I went to this corner space on the corner of Pike and Madison, right over there around the corner, and this is what I walked into. So it was this old interior design studio or something, and it was sponge, silver, and gold walls and this disgusting carpet. So we pulled the whole thing out, ripped it up, white boxed it. That's Ashley and I in the middle, and during this time we had that third child. Her name's Stella. So she's a month old, you can tell, because her head's all down. And then so I was up there for a little bit, and I didn't have branding on the windows for a long time, and clients would come in and they're like, well, where the hell's your door? Because there's just a door party downstairs. And so I ended up putting the logo on the door, writing the old is gone and the new has come up on the windows, kind of bookending the branding, because I wanted to be here for the city, and I felt like I had purpose to be here, and I wanted to kind of outwardly portray that the city's coming around. So, and then you make a studio pretty, you do all that cool stuff, you Instagram the hell out of it. So that's the design studio. And for a year I was rocking and rolling, I was reaping. I was making paychecks, clients loved the work, all this stuff. I was getting bloggable, I guess you could say. I was doing work on the side, so the King and Queen print, I just did that randomly one day. I was Print Magazine's Designer of the Week. Lucky Merlin is a fake beer brand, and it was on the die line. I thought that was a good joke. In magazines, Renaissance Covington did their stuff. And what's funny about this is all the work I've ever been blogged on or written on made me $0. And I kind of like it that way because I get to have a lot of fun with some of that stuff, and it kind of lets me exercise kind of my creative muscle. But I just think it's interesting. So when people kind of talk about clients and they don't get to do the cool work, then it's like, well, make cool work then. So I was rocking and rolling, living high. Literally a year ago today, I didn't realize this until this morning, I got a phone call. I'm going to keep this as brief as possible. But basically, I was in bed with a design studio out west and a brand down south that when I was doing that temporal purgatory freelance work, I did $1,000 worth of mock-ups for this brand. And the photographer found it. So this is all internal stuff. The design agency published it and it won a bunch of awards. When you publish work, that means it's published work. So that means you can get sued if you don't have rights. So shit hit the fan. So I got an email a year ago today that said, hey buddy, who the hell are you? By the way, you owe me $184,000. And I'm not wearing cowboy boots right now, but I usually do. I literally was shaking in my boots. This was at the time we were buying a new house. We were Covington. I lived 2 blocks that way. And I told my wife, ain't happening. Because I don't know what's up and I don't know what's down right now. And ended up solving the whole thing. Ended up coming out having to owe, it was like $30,000. But it was good. The whole thing was crazy. I could do another Creative Mornings on that. But the only thing I could focus on was doing client work. That was the only thing that made me happy. My personal life, I had no idea what was going on. The only thing I could focus on was doing really good work for the clients that I had at the time. And just to keep working, because I knew if I just keep working, that's my happy spot, and I'm gonna keep coming around. So fast forward, there was 5 projects that were coming in. And I felt pretty good about all of them. The other people involved felt pretty good about all of them. And one day, it was a Monday and Tuesday, all 5 projects got a hold of me via phone and email, and in those 2 days, $300,000 didn't come into the studio. So I was sitting there, that was the total of these projects, was 300 grand. And I was like, damn, that sucks, but it wasn't meant to be. So what do? You just I just keep working through. And during this time too, there was a guy that came into the studio and he wanted me to teach him how to design. I don't teach anybody anything. And it's not because I know it, but I'm not a good teacher. I barely teach my kids how to catch. So there was this guy who came in, he was like, hey man, I want to learn how to design. Can you teach me? And I was like, no, but you can sit over my shoulder and watch. And he saw a stack of these shirts sitting there, because I was starting to do some of the shirts and some of this other stuff. He was like, man, you probably need to sell these a little bit better. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. So what do you want to do? He was like, why don't you open a retail shop? Okay. And when I do that, that means something just clicked and something's going through my mind and I'm starting to just fast forward life for a bit. And it literally was a 5-minute decision. I don't own the building that the studio's in. I probably should have said that up front. So I called my friend Kelly, who owns the building, and I said, hey Kelly, downstairs directly below the studio has been empty for the 2 years I've been here. No one's biting it. I said, I have a really good idea. I'm gonna open a retail shop that's going to sell branded goods at the studio plus some other stuff. Don't talk to me details, I don't know, but this is literally a 5-minute decision and let's run with it. So what I ended up doing was shifting from clients and focused on the brand Durham. I went back to what the Contino stuff was and what the idea of this whole thing could be. This branding agency, clothing company, flip-flop back and forth. And I walked away from the computer. This is September. I completely stopped all client work and went downstairs and started gutting this old internet cafe that was shut down because it was a front for online gambling. It was called Pineapple Express, and they had computers in the window and all this nonsense, but dudes were in there playing poker. So I went downstairs, and so this is September, My last paycheck from the design world was in August. My next paycheck from the design world was in January of this year. So I was dialed in, and I was real kind of in my head. You know, I've never done this. I make things for other people, but I don't do a really good job of making things for myself. And then it was the whole thing, like, what are you going to call this? What is this going to look like? I knew what it didn't want to look like. I drove my wife crazy because all I did was talk in circles. So we go in here. This is the day that I said we were going to do it. That's what it used to look like. We were tearing down all the cubbies for the computers, paint it black. When in doubt, black it out. And then told Kelly, I was like, hey, listen, if I'm opening a retail shop, we got to freshen this place up. We're going to paint it black and gold, or black and gray, and it's going to look good. You know, started laying new floor, doing all this stuff. And during this whole time, I loved it because I was working with a bunch of my friends. I was working with my buddies who are a lot more talented than me in just the art of crafting things. And I kept just gut checking my ideas with people. And like, I don't know, you know, but just kept working, blacked out the window, said please excuse instead of our mess, it said progress. Because I wanted to make something for the city. This wasn't about me. I wanted to reinvest into the city. You know, we were back here. This is where I raised my kids and family, and I just wanted something for that corner to be worthwhile. And then I had no idea what the hell to call it. I had friends coming from all over the place. They're like, dude, don't call it Durham. Don't do it, because you're not going to be able to get yourself out of there. And I was like, my joke was, I was like, so what do we call it? Stitches? What do you want to call it? Like, because if it's Project Stitches, it doesn't. People are going to know who made it, so let's just own it. And in the vernacular, in the nomenclature, what I didn't know, so we called it Durham Department, is it ended up being a department of the studio. And it ended up being a department of the studio, and the studio treated itself as its own client. So in between client work, I treated myself and the brand of Durham as its own case study, and I wanted a physical space to have conversations in, because private studio space, you don't really have life talk sometimes. You have business talk, and I was kind of walking away from some of the business talk stuff. So we started doing photo shoots, and the whole idea was this shop in progress, because I wasn't working. We were building a shop. That's my friend Taylor. Working with my buddies, again, Jeremy Kramer, if you guys know him, he's an incredible photographer. So it was fun. Fast forward, you know, started building the whole thing out. That's Grainwell, they did all the letters. So it was really this kind of collaborative city effort to get this thing. This Trojan horse thing to hang a 10-foot mirror that we had to build. We're gonna open December 11th. It's just gonna be a pop-up event. We're only gonna do it one night. We're gonna call it Fellowship. And people were jazzed on it. We had a big street party. There was other businesses that were open at the same time, so it was this real cool communal idea. This was 2 days before, so we opened December 11th on a Friday. This was Wednesday, and I was leaving work that night, and I was like, man, this is starting to look like a shop. I came in Thursday morning, put my key in the lock, and I walked, instead of opening the door, I walked through the door. The day before we opened, we were broken into. And instead of stealing $1,000 worth of power tools, some bastard came and he wanted all the Durham goods he could have in his hands. And so you can see these two pictures. Some guy he was like, these are mine. And I was like hurt. I was like, man, why you gotta do that? I'll just give you something. Don't take it from me, but something bad always has to happen before something good happens. You know, fear has to make itself evident before victory shows up, at least in my life. And so then that Friday we opened up, we had a big party, I cried. I was emotionally, physically, mentally, I was just drained, and I was overwhelmed. And bunch of people came out, and it was a good time, and we were only going to be open that one day, and we ended up deciding to stay open for the month of December. My CPAs didn't like that, but we did, and it was the best decision we kind of made, because We ended up getting pressed. We were the first business written up in the Inquirer for 2016, so that came out I think January 3rd. We were in Best of Cincinnati for the Reader's Choice, but this was, I forget what they called this. This was the Editor's Choice or something like that, and they called us, what'd they say? Best Love the Cove Urban Outfitter. That sounds cool. So, started getting pressed. And now I'm here, and I was like, how do I make money? I'm a designer, I go to the design studio. So I go back upstairs, and I was like, what does the future look like? What am I gonna do? I have 2 businesses now, and I don't have a damn clue. But that's where my strength is, and I know that now because I work best in the unknown. I work best in the black. I never wrote a business plan. I didn't have time to. I think I wrote 1 paragraph of a business plan, and for better or worse, I'm so dialed into the now. Like I said earlier, I don't worry about 6 months from now. Like I don't worry about a year from now or projections. Like I just want to do really killer work right now because I don't know where I'll be tomorrow, and I don't know where my client's going to be tomorrow. So with all of that, I wanted to give you all a set of rules that the studio's kind of learned from doing all of this stuff. So this wasn't taught. My creative director didn't tell me this. This was learned behavior, and this is kind of how I run the studio. So rule number 1 is be thankful. Just be thankful. This trickles down into everything else. You could have it a lot worse, and you could also work for a lot better. So just be thankful for where you are right now. Cool doesn't pay the bills, clients do. I hear all the time about this cool logo that didn't get picked, and they just don't know. They don't know what they're missing out on. And it's not about you guys. It's not about me. This is a business of transaction. And so cool doesn't pay the bills, clients do. I'm fortunate to have cool clients that want cool stuff, but I also have anti-sexy clients. And those anti-sexy clients are sometimes a little bit more fun because I can't go to my cool back pocket, pull out the cool stuff. I kind of have to work with it. So cool doesn't pay the bill, clients do. Talk is cheap, action costs something. Talk is what it is, Action is 1 step forward. It doesn't have to be money, it doesn't have to be time, motivation, mind space. You're gonna have to invest somewhere to make progress. Nothing is given, everything is earned. So work hard and do good work, and do that good free work because you don't know who's going to look at it. And someone named, for instance, they'll see a Global Ghost logo that I did for Covington for no money, and you'll get a phone call from Target 2 weeks later and say, hey man, who are you? So you just work. Your ego is your enemy. So don't be above the work. Don't let your mind go above the work and be better than and think that you're in front of the work. Take the shelf off the work, or excuse me, take your work off the shelf and just be level-headed and be grateful. Because if your ego gets involved, it's really easy to be, especially being a one-man band, it's really easy to be a me, me, me show. But that's not the case at all. This is a we thing. So don't let that go to your head because then you're in a whole world of trouble. Don't stop working when the work stops. So I already made mention of that. If you're not doing cool work for your clients, just do cool work. Keep your knife sharp. And then the last one, sow something worth reaping. So this is kind of the mantra that the studio hangs on to. And I think this kind of really bookends the whole talk. And just plant good seed. Plant your passion in the ground, water it, work hard, because you don't know what fruit is going to bear of that. So, thanks you guys.